everyone, welcome back to Nolzur's Marvelous Tutorials with RealmSmith. This is episode 32, The Hill Giant. We had some audio issues. We are back, and hopefully we are not delayed anymore. If I can get a confirmation from people in the chat that we are actually not delayed at all and that you are getting me in real time, that would be incredible. Nice. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So first of all, a little bit of confusion tonight. We were going to do the Fire Giant. I apologize. I thought we had stock. We didn't have stock of Fire Giant. I put up the announcement today when I wasn't in the studio and then came back and realized we didn't have one. So I apologize. I'm so sorry, folks, but we are doing the Hill Giant tonight. You've been asking for the Hill Giant as well. So we're going to do that. Lots of skin effects on there. So I apologize ahead of time and want to make sure that we trudge forward here and get her done. We've got only an hour and a half now, so I've got to do a Hill Giant in an hour and a half because of technical issues, but it's all good. If we have to go over a little bit, I don't think there's anybody else after us. The wonderful D&D mods can let us know if that is in fact the case, including DC Lacer. I think it's DC Lacer. I think that's the way you intend for it to be pronounced. I want to thank all the mods, of course. They're wonderful, as always. Also want to thank D&D for having us on their channel, which is so incredible and such an honor. Also want to thank WizKids for all the incredible miniatures, and Vallejo for all the awesome paints that we use on a weekly basis. A couple of announcements real quick. Into the Mist, episode 5 is tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. It is a crazy episode. At the end of the last episode, no spoilers in case anybody hasn't seen it. Is going to see it tomorrow. Something crazy happened in the last couple minutes, and we don't know how that's going to end up for one of our adventurers. So we posted a. Oh, okay, so we are done at 7. Okay, no problem. That's fine. We will try and do our best to get this through this at an hour and a half. I've never challenged myself with doing too much in too little time before. Anyways, check it out. Into the Mist. We've put a recap of last episode up online on our YouTube, so check that out if you wanted just a little refresher before you dig into tomorrow night's episode, but we're super excited about that. For our boxes, our monthly adventure boxes, we basically send you a box every month that is a ongoing campaign within our homebrew universe for D&D 5e. You can check that out at www.realmsmith.tv, and you can use the promo code IWantAdventure to get $20 off your first box. Couple other quick ones. I think that's pretty much it. We will be playing Sirenscape throughout the episode. We've been starting to do that just to add a little bit of ambiance while you guys are watching. If it's too loud, if it's too distracting, let me know. I can turn it down a little bit. We're starting off with some epic music here, but we are going to go and do some kind of outdoorsy stuff. This is a Hill Giant, so let's see what we have here. For those of you that want to check out Sirenscape, go to sirenscape.com, and there's some awesome stuff there for free that you can check out if you're into that sort of thing. I think we're going to, let's see here. We're going to go into the Classic Adventure Pack here, and we're going to go Forest Day, because that's what adventurers do. They just kind of hang out in the forest, minding their business. Nothing is going on, and then all of a sudden, Frost Giants attack. Or Hill Giants. That's what these are. And then, if you like what you see, follow us. Subscribe to us on our YouTube. You can check us out on Instagram and Facebook at RealmSmith TV. We are live on our YouTube, or on our, Twitch. We're live on the D&D Twitch, and we're also live on our Facebook tonight for this. So let's jump right in. We don't have a heck of a lot of time. Hopefully we'll get some fun, cheery forest sounds in just a second. There they are. It's nice. It's a nice day. No Hill Giants around. We're just hanging out, having a good time. All right. Tools. Tools of the trade as usual. D&D Hill Giant by WizKids. We have some brushes of various sizes, a number 1 and number 2. A 0 of Vallejo dry brush, which is actually number 4, I believe. And then we have some water pot, a paper towel, of course, for dry brushing and for drying off our brushes, and also for dry brushing, and a paint palette for mixing our paints as usual. We have a wide range of paints today. We got a lot of skin tones here for the Hill Giant, of course. Heavy skin tone, rosy flesh, and cadmium skin. And we're going to mix those in varying degrees with a little bit of bone white as well to create the skin tones. But of course, we'll use, as usual, our flesh wash in order to add some depth into the miniature that way. We've also got some leather brown, heavy cyan and parasite brown for all of the kind of clothing areas, as well as umber wash and some black wash for that. And then gunmetal for, there's a couple rings and stuff that he has on his person, and then heavy blue gray for the end of his club, which we're then going to use stonewall gray in order to highlight that as we kind of get to that point in the tutorial. For his hair, I think we'll probably use a mix of leather brown and maybe some bone white, but we'll have to see in just a second here. All right, I've also listened, folks. A lot of you have said that you can't see enough of the miniature on our show, so I've actually changed the camera angle, and I have added a lot more miniature view on the screen. I have made my window smaller, this window here. I mean, a lot of you said we don't need to see you, we just need to see the miniature. So I took some advice, and we have reformatted our interface for you guys. So hopefully that works. But anyways, all right. So here is the Hill Giant. It's an incredible miniature, as usual, from WizKids. And there's lots and lots and lots of surface area here. So we're going to use a really large brush for this. This is also going to be used, it is also what we're going to use for our dry brushing of the large areas as well. But we're going to use this to really get in and do what we need to do. I'm going to do the skin first because that is the kind of deepest area. What I like to do is go from the inside out on a miniature. So go to the deepest recesses first, and then we're going to work our way out from there. Question. So with the WizKids and Vallejo working together now, what does that mean for like the future of these shows? I've gotten a ton of the paints thinking they'd cross over to multiple minis going forward. That is absolutely the case. So as some of you have heard, WizKids and Vallejo have teamed together for a WizKids paint line. That is just a sub-brand of this set. So every color within the WizKids line is also compatible with the same color in the Vallejo line. So there's not going to be any difference whatsoever moving forward, and you can interchange and the colors will be the same. You just look at the code and the color name and you can reference those. Okay, so skin tone. So we're going to use heavy skin tone. To start, this is a Vallejo extra opaque color. I use this for a lot of skin, base skin, and the extra opaques basically go on in one coat. They're pretty incredible that way, but that's what they're formulated for. They're basically formulated in order to go onto the miniature in one foul swoop without having to do multiple coats, which is nice. I'm also going to dilute my paint just a touch. I always do that just to help it to flow nicely into all the recesses. But we're just really going to kind of strong arm the paint onto here. We don't want to add too much paint because we don't want to clog the recesses, and we want to make sure we don't clog the detail. But you can see that heavy skin tone goes on really nicely, and hopefully I don't get off screen too much because I've zoomed in quite a bit onto the miniature here. Moving forward, hopefully. If you guys, if you guys can give me some thumbs up on whether or not you like the new interface. Of course, at RealmSmith, we always like to kind of up the bar. We've started making the our Into the Myth streams interactive. For those of you that haven't kind of caught that or been around for that, we have started using Extra Life donations to unlock items for the players in-game. I think that's the first time that's ever been done in a D&D live stream. I'm not sure. But basically, you know, we have a little bar at the top of the screen, and as people donate, items literally are sent to the players as milestones are sent to the players in the game, and they use them, and they have used them. We had 5 items set for the first 4 levels, and you guys did such an incredible job of supporting us that we blew through those 5 items in the first 4 episodes. So they're only level 2, and they've got 5 magic items. So we've added 5 new items. They will appear on tomorrow night's episode, so tune in to see what those are. We're approaching it just slightly. We're pivoting a little bit just to make sure that it's sustainable moving forward, but we're so excited, and thank you so much. We raised, at the start of last episode, we had raised $310 or something like that. As of the end of last episode, we were at 1,000, so we raised almost over $700 in one episode for Extra Life. We do it for the kids, and we're super excited to continue to do that. And that will be a theme with RealmSmith moving forward. We really want to give back to the community the best that we can, and it's really fun for you guys to be actually affecting the game in real time. An announcement that I didn't make that's super, super exciting is that Nolzur's will be live at GaryCon on the Sunday of the GaryCon show. That is on the 29th of March, which is actually my birthday. I don't know which mini we'll be painting yet. We're just finalizing that. It will be an epic one either way, and we're also going to be finalizing which celebrity will be painting with us during the masterclass. But as of now, it's just super fun to get together. There's only 40 seats available. Cost is $20. It'll most likely be a larger miniature like this one, and you get a class and you get the mini, and we get to have a great time painting together at GaryCon, which is just an awesome show. We love it so much. It's our must-do show every year, and we are platinum sponsors of the show. So we're also doing the finale of Into the Mist there as well. Okay, so as you can see, heavy skin tone, really solid base coat. We're going to let that dry just for a second and perhaps move on to something else that we can kind of paint while that's drying, because we don't have a lot of time. And then we'll come back and we'll add a wash to that miniature and all of that area. DC, you'll be there. Did we clear up if it's DC Lasser or D. Classer? But I'm so glad that you'll be there. I had no idea. I'm super excited to meet you. Just let me jump over to Facebook here, so if there's any comments. Want to say hi to everybody on Facebook. Of course, Kelly Preston as usual. Hello, Kelly, Shay, and all you all. Appreciate you guys stopping in and saying hi on the Facebook. All right. Okay. Yes, last week I tried doing 6 barbarians. I came so close, guys. I came so close to finishing, and I didn't finish. But I am going to finish those, and I will be posting those on Instagram soon. It's okay if the paint here, you can see in some cases, it's a little muddled, or whatever that word is. But that's okay. It kind of looks like a natural skin tone, actually. So I'm not too worried about that in some places. But it is a really solid base coat, and you can see how nicely that went on. I think maybe we should switch the music up just a touch. What do you think? Let's see what we've got here. I'm going to add... I still like kind of the forest during the day kind of thing. But I think it's getting pretty ominous, because I think a hill giant is approaching. I've had Sirenscape on for a while, so I think I'm just going to quit out of it and restart it here. DC Lasser. Yep, good. That was a good guess. Awesome. This mini is a hill giant from WizKids, painted with Vallejo Game Color. For those of you that are watching. For those of you that are new, we have 31 episodes on the D&D YouTube and on the RealmSmith YouTube page. You can go back and check out all of those. I am noticing as well, folks, as usual, as you paint, you'll notice that as the paint dries, it shrinks, and as it goes matte, because all of this is water-based acrylic, most of it is matte in sheen, and you'll find that you've missed some spots. Just because as the paint dries, it shrinks, and I guess the glossiness tends to hide the color a little bit. So I am just... There we go. Okay, let's get back in here. Nice and quick. Good stuff. There we are. Just a nice day. Birds chirping. Nothing wrong, right? Nothing happening. Until there might be a hill giant approaching. All right. Okay, I'm going to go and do this massive backpack, I think. I wonder. So I'm thinking about doing the pants, his pants, if you call them that. I don't know what it is, but we're going to do his pants a color, and we're going to do his backpack his pack a different color. I think I want to do his backpack a darker color. Yeah, we're going to use heavy sienna. I think that's what I want to do. Heavy sienna for the backpack. Heavy sienna is one of my favorite colors in the Game Color line. It is a heavy, extra opaque color, as usual, and again, is designed to cover in one coat. Just add a touch of water, not a lot at all. My palette is really dirty, folks. Bad palette etiquette. If you have any questions, just write question before your question and I will answer it. If I see it, if I don't see it, and it takes a little while for it to come back around, just ask it again, and I will answer it as quickly as I possibly can. All right, so hill giant, here we come. Using, like I said, just a large brush for this. Getting the bristles right deep into where it is. When I get close to the skin that I've already done, I'll probably get maybe a smaller brush at some point to do that detail if I feel like I'm going to start to overbrush too much. I'm not worried about overbrushing on the pants because they haven't even been painted yet. But there's a lot of paint required for this miniature. Funny thing is Vallejo goes a long way. So even though it seems like it's a large mini, it's going to cover a lot. You know, I did one kind of squirt of the one small area of the heavy skin tone here, and it lasted the entirety of painting that skin. So it's amazing how far paint will go, especially in a dropper bottle like Vallejo has. Anybody else going to be at GaryCon that we'll see there? Make sure that you stop by. We actually have a booth at GaryCon as well. Within the booth, our very own Brandon Perkins, who plays Sterling in our live stream and has DM'd a bunch of our previous live streams, will be running demos of our boxes at GaryCon, of our adventure boxes. So please stop by. We were going to get into the event system, but we were a little late for that. So if you want to sign up, just come to the booth, and we'll have a sign-up sheet for you at the booth for signing up for the demos. We'll be running demos basically every day that the exhibit hall's open, pretty much from when it opens till it closes. I may also be doing some run-throughs as well, so we hope to see you guys there and join us. And be sure you go and you sign up for the class, because that'll fill up real fast. We've been selling out at all the other shows, so. Possibly we'll be there for the weekend. Nice. Look forward to seeing you guys. Question, what's the mini you're most looking forward to this month? Ooh, that's a good question. So for me, personally, I was looking forward to the Frost Giant, the Fire Giant. I keep calling it a Frost Giant. I was looking forward to the Fire Giant just because it's a fun miniature. It's a great miniature. I was looking forward to this one too because I actually haven't painted this one myself. Adam Loper from Tabletop Minions painted this one for our masterclass at Origins, I believe. So yeah, it was Origins. So I didn't actually get a chance to paint this one. So I'm excited for this one, even though it wasn't on the original list. But I think, crazily enough, the wagons. I'm actually really looking forward to the Vistani wagons, which will be next week. Just because we're playing through Curse of Strahd right now, and I most enjoy painting things that I can use in our game directly, which makes sense. I guess that's the case for most people. And so I'm really looking forward to painting the wagons. Sounds kind of silly, but I actually enjoy painting furniture and like set pieces and stuff. I don't know if maybe it's because it's a bit less kind of brain work, I guess, less guesswork. Here we go. So, big brown sack on his back, which turned out all right. Now his skin is almost dry. There's a couple areas that it's not, so we're just going to wait on that. I've also had a little bit of this brown. I added a bit too much water, and it's kind of seeped in down into this recess here. So I'm just going to take a brush I haven't used yet and try my best to kind of sop it up with a little water. And that typically you can clean up an area like that if you're quick. Okay, so base coated sack. The skin is pretty much almost dry, just a little bit longer. I'm actually just going to kind of dry out some of those recesses of the skin here so we can get moving. But it's looking pretty good so far. I'm going to go ahead and base coat the pants. Might as well while I'm waiting for everything else to dry. Welcome, Ink and Ignorance. Good friend as usual. Painted with us at PAX Unplugged, actually, for one of our sessions. Hi, friend. I'm following the Mist series. Cheers from Brazil. Brazil. Tás bem? I'm from Portugal. Well, I'm not from Portugal. I was born in Canada, but my parents were born in Portugal. So, welcome. Oh, so I wish you could go too. Gary Con's just such a wonderful, fun show, and it's kind of where the pros go to be fans. I always say that. You get to meet everyone, and I just realized I did not do his feet, which are skin tone, so I'm going to have to go back and do that after I'm done this. But yeah, it's just such a blast, the show. You get to meet everyone that you've always wanted to meet in close proximity. All the Gygaxes are there, the stories that we've had. One of the most incredible experiences I had was last year at Gary Con. Joel and I were at the show, and we were interviewing a bunch of people from TSR, actually, and we're actually going to finish that documentary. We intended to finish it last year, didn't get a chance to. Things got really busy. But we're actually now instead going to finish it this year. And it's kind of neat because it's all come kind of full circle for us at RealmSmith. And we got the opportunity to interview some of the initial staff at TSR when Dungeons & Dragons was being created. And we met the first employee of TSR, and we had a chat with them. I think it was Tim Kask, I think. But anyways, we had an opportunity to chat with him. He told us stories of when Gary called him up and said, hey, let's start a company. Like, pretty nuts, pretty crazy, awesome experience. So it's just a really cool, magical place where the old guard meets the new guard, meaning all the kind of original TSR employees and people who wrote the original books and all that kind of stuff are there, along with all kind of the original, the current D&D creative teams and influencers, and it's just fun. Just so fun. I wouldn't miss it, and I'm so glad and blessed to be able to go this year. And like I said, be Platinum sponsors. We really believe in the show, and so we wanted to make sure that we represented that. This miniature has so much detail. It's so great. And this is a perfect miniature for things like dry brushing and washes, which we're going to do, especially given how much time we have. Question from Puppy Lover. If you were going to do a purple palette on a T-Rex mini, what would you recommend? Ooh, a purple palette. So the palette, I tend to stay pretty true to the source material. So if there is a monster in a book, I tend to make sure that I kind of follow that color scheme. So if D&D kind of has official kind of monster colors, I will typically do that. So the one I used was red. And what I did was I had red, and then we used a black wash, and then worked up the red to oranges. So instead, I would probably use something like Warlord Purple, and work up to a Squid Pink by kind of adding, slowly working it up. So I would use like a Warlord Purple, and then I would add a Violet wash to that, or a Violet ink. Either one will work to kind of give it some depth. And then I would work that up from there, and dry brush on till you get to about the Squid Pink color. That would be cool. Okay. Let's see. Gonna need a little bit of more heavy brown in my palette here. All right. Okay. It's a little tough to get under here with a big brush like this. So I'm going to try my best. I may have to switch. I'm going to switch over to a smaller brush just for that area, because this is a big brush. Big brush. There we go. Way better. If I can get that corner even. It's being a little stubborn here. And frankly, if it's not accessible by a brush, people probably won't even see it. So in those cases, sometimes I just let the miniature win in that case. Or the wash will do the work afterwards. Okay, so that is that. As it starts to dry, I'm sure I'll find areas that I missed in these deep folds, but it's incredible how deep the texture is on that mini, especially in the pant area there. It's very cool. I'm going to come back with some heavy skin tone. I overpainted on the back here a little bit. I just want to come back in there and fix that just a touch. And then also the feet here. So he's got, his legs are showing a little bit, kind of his shin area and part of his calf. And come back here and paint over that. Like so. And then I'm also going to paint his toes as well, and the part of his feet that are showing. How are the sound effects, guys? Are they a little loud? I'll turn them down just a touch. I think I'm getting some complaints. So, shouldn't the net on the backpack be another color? Absolutely, it should. But because it's higher, because it sits a little higher than the sack itself, I am going to go in and dry brush that afterwards. And maybe not even dry brush. I may actually go in and try and paint it kind of almost with an overbrush technique that I'll show you guys later. But yeah, I should absolutely. But yes, I have. Somebody just messaged me and I'm turning down the sound effects. If they're too loud and distracting, that is. I apologize for that. We're still trying to work out the levels. And I do not have a producer on these evenings, so it's hard for me to kind of gauge while they're going here. Okay. Now I just got to paint the toes. Like that. Paint the other toes. Like that. You can see how quickly I got through base coating those other areas just by using a really large brush. I mean, we're quite a ways ahead now in a short amount of time. I'm not going to paint his his club because I'm actually going to use that to hold the miniature quite a bit. And then I'm also now going to go around. You'll see all these kind of nooks and crannies that I didn't see before, where skin is showing through. Again, you don't notice when it's wet because of the way the light plays on the miniature, and again, the fact that the paint shrinks a little bit. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Cool. Some paint on its left side. Oh. On this side? I'm not seeing that. And the washes will do quite a bit, actually, to cover. Never mind, you got to cover. Thanks, Drake. For a new painter with a budget, what brush sizes would you recommend as an essential first buys? I would say a number 2 brush. Depending on the size of the minis, for small to kind of medium-sized minis, I would use a number 2, a number 1, and a 0, along with a dry brush. So that's kind of, you can get the 3-pack Vallejo brush. I would do that. And synthetics are fine. That's what I use for the most part. And then a larger brush if you're doing miniatures this size. 1 or 2 large brushes would be great. Kind of a base coat brush and maybe a brush for dry brushing. But yeah, that would be what I recommend. Those are kind of the standard brush sizes, and you'll get lots of use out of those if you take very good care of them. Make sure you do wash your brushes, folks. It's important. All right, so now the backpack is not dry yet. The pants are drying actually faster than the backpack, just because I used a bit too much water on the backpack. But I'm now going to use a flesh wash on the skin. So I haven't quite decided yet if I'm going to be dry brushing the skin or blending it. I usually blend skin, but this guy is so big and got such great texture in his skin that it may actually be a better call in this case to dry brush. Again, because the texture, because the sculpt is so kind of large. And so basically what we're doing with this wash, this is the Vallejo Game Color Flesh Wash. I'm just basically playing it on the miniature. I've said it many times before. It's like courage. It's like talent in a bottle. Courage in a bottle is something completely different. It's like talent in a bottle. Basically, you put some on to your miniature, and then you kind of work it around your mini until you're kind of happy with the way that it's settling in the recesses. This is foaming up a bit. I think it's because of the brush that I'm using here. But if it does that for you, it's not a huge problem. It's not going to cause any major issues. And I will add some water to it if that starts to happen for me. But basically, I am covering all of the skin in a wash here I need some more wash, to add some depth and shadow to the miniature. That's what washes are designed to do, and do quite well. But again, you don't really paint a wash on. You're almost kind of placing it on the miniature and then manipulating it into the recesses where you want it to go and where you want it to settle. You don't want it to pool too much in the recesses because it'll obscure detail, but you can see what it's doing here, and it's just creating shadow next to kind of the detail, and really bringing out some of that texture. So we're just going to let that sit for a sec. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a wash on the pants. For that, we are going to use the Umber wash. Again, another Vallejo Game Color wash. And this is more of an earthy wash. I love the sepia wash. Is my favorite wash. We're actually not using that today because I wanted kind of more of an earthy feel and look. And so you can see that the Umber wash is a lot more kind of muted, not as warm as the sepia is, and feels a lot more kind of natural to me. So that's what I'm using on the pants here. on this heavy brown color base coat. Like that. Didn't quite put enough wash on here. I also need to go back, and I realized that I didn't do the wash on the feet. I keep forgetting his feet. So, where's everybody from, too? Hello, Lolianol. Don't forget wash on his legs, feet. Yes, thank you. You guys are on it today. I like it. Keeping me honest. Keeping me honest, because I'm missing stuff. There we go. And again, on minis this size, it's easy to miss big areas if you're kind of working your way through quickly like I am on this miniature. There we go. And it looks like a bit of a mess right now, but once it starts to dry and we start to add some of the highlights and layers and all that kind of stuff, it'll really kind of start to come together. Okay, so the brown has been washed. That has been washed. This pack is still kind of wet in some areas. I may actually take this opportunity to sop up some of that. And what I basically mean is, if it's pooled too much in an area, it's taking too long to dry, I'll go in and I will just use the edge of my brush to kind of pull away some of that paint. I also just noticed that I've missed some areas here. So I will go back in with some heavy sienna, which is still wet in my palette. And add a little touch of water and just kind of come in here and fill in some of those gaps that I am noticing here. There we go. Good. Folks, I'm really digging this new interface here. I think it's what you've all kind of been hoping for. Hello from Arizona, working on painting my second mini. Any suggestions for making your own washes? I saw someone online recommend adding some soap to help it flow better. Ooh, I don't know about soap. Soap for me would froth up a bit. I actually don't create my own washes. I use the standard Vallejo ones. They're great and they're formulated exactly for that purpose. That said, if I were going to create my own wash, instead of using water, which you can do, actually, you can just water down water-based paint and create a wash from it. I would actually use like a medium, a matte medium, which will come in most paint lines. Vallejo has a matte medium that's really great, and so you can use that to make it wet and flow better too. Black wash, here we come. So I am using a black wash, again from the Vallejo Game Color line. I'll be using that for the pack. And this will make the pack actually quite dark, which is okay, because then with gradual dry brushes, it will come right back up to where it needs to be. At least that's the intention. All right. So again, I am placing it. I was a bit vigorous on the skin. I'm basically going to place it on and then kind of move it around my brush, or the miniature, sorry, with my brush, getting into the recesses so that we get some shadow. Trying not to get it on the skin area, but just working it around. And just because of the texture on here tends to suds up a little bit, which I imagine if you use dish soap, it would happen a lot more. So don't know if you'd want to do that, but I know there's all kinds of hacks and ideas and really cool tutorials for creating your own washes and stuff up there. Some pretty awesome resources, especially on the Tabletop Crafters Guild. Little shout out. Those folks are awesome. Great people. You can, if you haven't already, and you're a crafting DM, I would suggest that you head over to the Tabletop Crafters Guild Facebook page and check that out, because run by awesome people, and that's kind of what some of those guys and girls is what's inspired me to do what I'm doing. So big shout out to those guys. All right. You can see it's really pooling in some areas. I don't want it to do that because it will kind of clog up that detail. So I'm just going to go back in and push it around a little bit. Okay, I'm going to let that dry. Now the skin is drying actually quite nicely. Again, you're getting kind of that mottled look, but that's okay actually. For this skin, especially for him, he's not going to have oil of Olay or anything like that. He's not going to be able to do any, you know, skin treatments. He's not going to have shiny, perfect skin, so we're okay that it looks a little messed up. But that's pretty much it for base coating. We're not going to base coat the club because I'm holding the mini like this a lot and I don't want to mess that up. Maybe we'll do that a little later. And I'm going to base coat the ankle areas after I've probably dry brushed the skin, which I think is kind of the next step for me. Once that is dry, I think. But he's looking all right. I don't know where my fan is, so I'm back to classic drying method. Most masculine drying method 101. It's been a long time since I've done this. Yes, actually, Lionel says that he drew his first ASMR. That's funny. He drew some. He drew his first map yesterday. That's exciting. So fun. I do draw my own maps, and I do all the maps actually for the encounter maps for our adventure boxes. I love doing it. It's actually one of my favorite things. It's one thing that when we went into creating our adventure boxes that I said I still really wanted to do was to create the maps. So I do that. Okay, I'm going to go in with this wash here in some areas that it's a little thick and just kind of sop a little bit of it up. You want to be careful though because it'll actually pull the wash completely off the miniature if you're not careful and leave kind of a blank spot there. So you don't want that. But we definitely want it to be as dry as possible before we start to dry brush, because that becomes a big mess. Okay. Also, folks, if you follow us on our RealmSmith, I believe this little potion bottle will light if it hasn't been already. It'll glow purple, and that's just a little bit of fun interactivity to see what you guys do. So if you head over to a RealmSmith, twitch.tv/RealmSmith, and hit follow, I think that should work today. It didn't work last Nolzur's. It did work last Into the Mist, but you guys can give that a go and see if that works for you. All right. He's so close. I think it's dry brush time. I'm going to start gingerly dry brushing. So for the first dry brush, I am going to use Rosy Flesh. Rosy Flesh is kind of a bit more of a pink tone. It's quite a bit lighter than the heavy skin tone. So we're actually going to work it up from there. So we're actually going to take the Rosy Flesh and the heavy skin tone and start to kind of mix a little bit of it together because we don't want it to be stark, a huge stark difference. I think that should probably be right. For those of you that are new to painting, dry brushing is basically where you load your brush and you wipe most of it off on a paper towel. Sounds silly, sounds counterproductive, but the idea is that you're just depositing dry paint onto the miniature and therefore just catching the kind of the highermost detail. You can see what's happening already on that arm as I do this. And again, I think that this hill giant is actually kind of perfect for dry brushing just because the texture is just so vivid. You can see already what it did on that hand there. The more texture, the better a dry brush typically works on a miniature. Just as a thought. As a rule of thumb, a flat surface, though it can be dry brushed, just doesn't carry the paint or catch the paint the same way so like fur is great, that sort of thing. All these veins, you can see how the veins are coming out in the arm there as I kind of dry brush it. I'm going to cross his chest here, his neck, his face has gotten a really cool effect, and so I'm just going to continue to dry brush him. I imagine his voice would be something like this, but not very bright, maybe. Hill giants aren't, in fact. All right. Good. That's working out, and basically what this is doing is it's allowing the heavy skin tone to rest, and the flesh wash that we gave to rest in the recesses, and you can see how that's kind of adding some depth already really nicely to the skin. I'm getting a little bit on some other areas, but that's okay because we can touch those up as we go. But that is that. There we go. Now we're going to go to the next dry brush, which is with cadmium skin, and that's going to kind of be our highest dry brush. Bottle lighting up purple seemed to work. Cool. Awesome. We're still testing out all of our kind of interactive elements of our streams, so I'm glad that worked. All right, so cadmium skin, same thing, dry brush. That's going to be a straight cadmium skin. It's lighter than rosy flesh, but now we're going to focus mostly, you know what, actually, I am not going to use this brush. That is a bit big for this. I'm going to actually rinse it off and put it aside because I want to use the smaller dry brush, and I'm going to be a bit more intentional with where I'm dry brushing with this lighter color. Now, basically, I'm just going to focus on the highest points on the miniature. So on his face, for example, his nose, his lip, chin, cheekbones, ears, kind of his jowls here as they sit, and the neck folds. You can see how that really did some pretty cool stuff to the texture on his skin. His chest here, some of these, kind of the edge of his chest. Kind of his shoulder muscles here. I'm just going to focus kind of in the center of them a bit. I want to get these veins, sorry, as they pop. You can see that came out real nice. The areas that would catch the most light is what I'm focusing on here. So his elbow, tricep back here. And again, you can spend a lot of time kind of blending each muscle section, which is typically what I do for skin on my miniatures, but he just has a lot of really great texture that you can, and we're limited on time, so this is a good option. Also with dry brushing, I'm going against the grain. What that means is I wouldn't go, see for example, this muscle group here, I wouldn't go like this because then you'll be painting inside the recess, which is not what you want. Instead, I'm painting across the detail and the texture so that the detail catches the paint, not the recesses. I think I want to add a bit more here. You can see how that's kind of coming out, and it also creates a contrast between that and the shadow cast by the straps. Catch his clavicle there, the folds on the side, like that. Again, folks, if you have any questions, just write question. There are no dumb questions. Please, I love new questions of people who just started painting, and that's my favorite. So that's why we're here. And catching all of this, you can just see how that really comes out. Now you can tell I'm not doing the bottom of the arm as much. I might just do it just a touch, but I'm going to focus mostly on top where the light coming down through this kind of sunny, seemingly peaceful day would catch the detail. We'll across the knuckles specifically. Don't forget the thumb. There. Top of the shoulder, of course. There we go. Across the toes. Don't forget those. No, just rhymed. Across the calf here. And those toes really came out as well. That's very nice. Okay, and that pretty much, folks, is the skin. I'm going to add maybe another kind of intentional highlight on some areas, but for the most part, maybe even not. I think that's done what I wanted it to do on the skin. And you can see it's almost like his skin has this kind of texture to it. Very cool. That worked out very nicely. Okay. The wash on his back is still drying. Again, I'm going to sop up a little bit of the areas that it pulled a bit too much for my liking. And it's still trying to dry. The paper towel's taking a beating too. Spuddles Plays says, I have not painted minis in about 20 years, just started again, and wow, so many different paints, I'm a bit lost. It is easy to get a little lost. It's cool to get a starter kit. That usually helps. When I started painting and I really got into it, I watched a lot of tutorials, kind of like this one. But basically, that'll help you to know which colors. And just get, if the budget doesn't allow for a starter kit of kind of a whole line or a basic line, just get the paints that you need for a project and then build as you go. That's kind of what I tend to do. Like I said, WizKids is coming out with Vallejo is coming out with a WizKids paint line for these miniatures, and there will be little technique kits that come with them, which have just been announced and shown at Nuremberg Toy Show, and those will have. If you get a kit like that, it just helps you to know which colors to use for that specific kind of effect that you're going for. All right, so I've dry brushed the skin. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to dry brush the pants. Now for that, I've got leather brown, which may not be light enough. Yeah, you know what? We're going to start there. Hello, RealmSmith Melanie. Melanie plays Callie on our live stream. If you guys tune in on Monday nights of Into the Mist, she's a noob, first time kind of D&D or brand new D&D player. Only played maybe a couple games with me before, and is representing all the noobs. Melanie just he said, question, what is that sack made of? This one is made of leather, perhaps burlap, Melanie. That is what this sack is made of. But that is an inside joke from last Monday's session. You guys can watch the recap or the episode itself to get the context of that. Anyways. So much fun. We're having a blast. Okay, so the leather brown is a little too subtle for me at this stage. I'm on a time crunch, so I'm going to up that quite a bit. I'm going to take bone white, and I'm going to add it to some heavy brown, and we are going to amp up that dry brush, that color. Let's see how that works. That's better. You can see. So I wanted the pants to feel kind of like a matte color, a bit more kind of earthy and subtle. And you can see how that is working. It's a little wet, but that's okay. I'm doing a bit more of an overbrush. And what an overbrush is, it's just like a dry brush. You're just leaving more paint on your brush, and so it's catching a lot more of that. And I wanted to lighten it up quite a bit here so that we get that detail showing through. There we go. You can see how that's really bringing out the texture in that. As you can see, then I'm going to mix in all the rest of my bone white into that, and that will lighten it up even more. And I'm going to just hit, now I'm focusing just on the highest detailed areas. So you can see kind of the flap up here on the back, kind of just the top on the leg area, and this cord that comes across, which we're probably going to paint a different color if we've got the time to do so, but there we go. Like that. And there is the pants, are pretty much done. And there's still some wash on the backpack, the knapsack. It's not a knapsack. Okay. Can imagine what he has in there. All right. Backpack is almost dry. That wash is taking a while, but that's okay because we've moved well on, folks. Well on. I'm going to paint his hair. What color should we do his hair? It's against this brown back here, so I'd like to make it a lighter color. I think I want to do, I'm going to do a leather brown base. Oh, thank you for the follow, folks. I love that thing. This helps me feel like you guys are really here. Okay, a little leather brown. I'm going to base coat his hair. Again, I'm making sure now that I am not painting on the skin. It's subtle, you can see, but once I add the brown, or so the umber wash, that will darken it a fair amount and bring back that texture and that depth. And he does have eyebrows, or he doesn't. I'm not sure. I'm going to give him eyebrows, because why not? Poor guy. Okay, there we go. Okay. And there, and I'm going to wait for a bit, and I'm going to add a wash on there, and that will, once that's dry. I'm going to go through now. I'd like to paint all these patches, and I think the patches on the pants, I'm going to actually use Parasite Brown straight and then do a wash on that. Parasite Brown is what we're going to use as a dry brush on the backpack, but for now, we're going to test it on the patches on his pants. Let's see how that looks, and see if it's enough of a departure from the color that's there. And oh, you're covering all that wonderful texture. Well, yes, I am. But then, and actually that looks pretty good. But then we're going to come back with a wash again and bring the texture back out once again. So not to worry. And all these little threads and things will come back with bone white. We'll bring all those out as well. But he's got all these little patches and things kind of stuck to his pants. And this will just all kind of bring him to life and delineate kind of the parts. There we go. You can see how cool that is looking there, like that. All right. That big patch on his back, we'll use kind of a heavy brown or a leather brown probably for that. I do think this all this stuff, I am going to use the dark brown from the backpack, mostly because it's going to really contrast. I was going to use leather brown on that, but I've decided to not do that. Instead, I'll come back and, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. I think these are teeth. I'm going to call them claws or teeth. I'm going to make those bone white as well. Okay. He looks like... I'm not going to say that, but yeah, that's hilarious. Oh, that's good. Any Oso says, any suggestions for how to highlight black? Always the tough question. Lately, my preferred method is to start with a gray, add a black wash, and then allow that gray under it to become the mid-tone, and then use a slightly lighter gray to then highlight. I did that on a bunch of the previous episodes that we did Into the Mist characters on. You guys can check that out. But that's kind of my preferred lately. For me, it just makes the most sense and works the best, in my opinion. Okay, I'm going to go through and grab some heavy sienna. We have about 40 minutes, folks. You think I can finish this in 40 minutes? We're about to find out. Time to turn on the turbo speed. So now I'm going to go through, and we're just going to base coat all of these straps here. I'm using a number 2 brush just to get it done nice and quickly. I am going to paint all of these kind of the rings and things and buckles that hold it all together. I'll be painting those afterwards with gunmetal and then giving those a wash. I think I have silver here as well for a highlight after, but for right now they're just going to look kind of flat. And then we'll come back and touch them up again. And for straps like this, for depth in the character and to make sure that it looks cool, make sure that you get the sides here. That's important. Don't just try and get the top, because that will add added depth. Well, that will add added depth. That will add depth, I think is just all I need to say in that situation. Okay, in that sentence. Okay. There we go. Now I'm trying to gingerly hold this miniature on the backpack because I don't want my fingers to pull off the paint on the backpack. It might happen on some of the higher kind of areas, but hopefully the dry brush will then cover those. And if not, I can always come back and touch that up as well. We're just catching all the straps here. You can see when I'm doing kind of line work or detail work, I always put my finger on the miniature and let it rest on the mini. It'll just give you more stability, a stronger base to paint from, help guide your hand a bit better. That. Super relaxing, right, Mel? Mel saying that the Sirenscape is super relaxing. Wish it was real summer. I know. I think they probably have a Hill Giant battle set I should be playing. A little bit more epic. I don't know if people are napping with this tranquil. Hopefully it's not too loud, folks. Hopefully the volume's better on it now. Okay, almost done these straps. Oh, thanks for the follow. Saw that out of my peripheral. Again, follow us on the RealmSmith Twitch. So there's twitch.tv/RealmSmith to light the potion bottle behind me. Oh, there it is again. Thank you, thank you. Melanie also did something that most people don't do last night. Her character needed a bio break. She hadn't peed since she got off the wagon. That was a pretty hilarious moment in our stream last Monday. If you wanted to repaint any of the minis... Okay, I got some questions here. Question is, if you wanted to repaint any of the minis from the WizKids blind boxes or the Adventure System games, Wrath of Ar-Shadowlan, etc., would you prime them again or worry about losing detail from the added layers? I wouldn't worry about losing detail. They're factory painted, so sometimes the detail is already kind of muddled a little bit, which WizKids will tell you. But I would definitely prime them again. Just hit them with some Vallejo spray primer or primer through your airbrush, if you have an airbrush, and you can go ahead and paint them over that primer, and it should be fine. Sometimes people will strip them. I don't think it's necessary. I haven't actually repainted in any of them yet, but yeah, it's definitely possible. I've seen people do it, and I know a lot of people like to do it. So, or even not necessarily even a repaint, just kind of touching it up a little bit and making them a bit more interesting in your own and whatever. And WizKids is actually really excited about that too. They actually have talked about me doing some repaints, because there's a lot of people in the community that like to do that. So, all right, I've decided that I'm going to paint this cord heavy sienna here. So I'm just going to go across. And again, it's a nice contrasting color to that lighter brown that I've used on his pants. So I'm using the edge of my brush to catch it. Not so much the point. It's just going to be easier to control. And then you're letting basically the brush do the work rather than trying to steady your hand. These extra opaque paints are incredible. Ink and Ignorance will attest to them. He tried them for the first time, I think, at PAX Unplugged during our masterclass, and loved them. Okay. Yeah, that's looking good. I like that because it adds just a little bit of something to his pants without distracting too much. I think maybe Bone White would have been a bit too stark a difference and a contrast. I wanted something subtle for that part. Just continue it down here. Going fairly quickly here to try and get him done in time. There we go. Oh, got a little bit of heavy sand on his pants, but that's okay actually because he's a hill giant, so we're probably going to end up dirtying him up anyways on purpose. Hopefully we have enough time to get to that point. We'll distress it a bit. There we go. Okay, so that is through there. I would have usually maybe given this a wash and some highlights, but I think it works for what we want and for what we need here. Okay, I'm going to do his leg things. I'm actually wondering if I should make them a little lighter than I was going to. Not sure. No, we'll do leather brown on those, which is still wet in my palette. Don't need to use that. Still got a half hour. Question, any suggestions for how to highlight? Oh, I already got that one. I always have trouble with the faces on the smaller medium creature type models. Yes, so suggestions for that. We've done a bunch of faces in our tutorial so far. You can look back to Vampire Hunters and the Vampire one, and any of the PC ones where we painted miniatures for our Into the Mist campaign, and you can get some hints or tips of how to paint faces then. I use a zero brush for that, and basically what you're doing is you're just hitting the top kind of uppermost detail where the light would hit. So I use a heavy skin tone to do a base for a face, or a dark flesh tone for a darker complexion, and then I'll go in and just work up from that, from heavy sienna to dark flesh tone to parasite brown. For a dark skin and for a lighter skin, I'll do what I did here, which is heavy skin tone, mix in some rosy flesh for that, and then eventually up to cadmium flesh, or cadmium skin, sorry. That typically works for me. And remember too, folks, that when you're painting these, They're going to be seen, use what I call the 1 foot or 2 foot rule. They're going to be on the table ahead of you and ahead of your players. When it comes to painting these, the reason I paint them in 2 hours or show you how to paint them in 2 hours is because, with D&D, you have a ton of monsters at the table, different monsters every session. It's not like wargaming where you're using the same army every time. So I budget my time accordingly based on the value I get from that mini at the table on an ongoing basis. So if it's a recurring NPC or a PC for that matter, I usually spend a little bit more time on it. But otherwise, I will spend as much time as I think I need to make it look really cool at about the 1 to 2 foot kind of distance from the player or from the player's vantage. Because then that way you're getting enough detail in it to probably make it good enough. And for them to kind of enjoy it and really be impressed or scared or whatever kind of emotion you're trying to get out of your players. But you're also not blowing your kind of hobby budget or hobby time budget on really trying to do something that you're limited, you got limited time to do. So, all right, so I use leather brown for kind of the leg wraps there. I will now probably go ahead and base coat the club handle. I think we're doing okay on time, folks. I think we're going to be all right. This is so relaxing. I know, right? Hopefully, like I said, the Sirenscape sound set isn't putting you guys to sleep. It's good. Let me check back on Facebook here real quick. See if we've got any questions or comments. Facebook always is weird with comments. Sometimes it doesn't catch up and stuff, so I just want to make sure that we're not missing anyone. No, we're good. All right. Thanks for all the viewers on the D&D Twitch and on our Twitch. So awesome. And thanks for everyone for your ongoing support. It's been quite the ride the last month or so with our new stream and all the support and love we're getting and all the positive comments. And this show, because people now, after we went kind of native on the D&D Twitch channel, our audience has just been growing and growing in leaps and bounds. So just want to welcome everyone and thank everyone for your support. It's a dream to be able to do this as my full-time job, and that's all possible for you guys, and we wouldn't want to do it without you. So just a little feels for a Sunday. You guys take time out of your day on a Sunday to do this is pretty awesome. So thank you. And hopefully you learn a little something as you go. And if not, you listen to some birdies, you have a nap, whatever. You're the boss of your time. Okay. Right, so again, I'm not too worried about getting this on the rock. I really just want to make sure that I cover all of the wood sections on this appropriately and the way that I need to. And then, I just paint over the areas that I messed up later. But I'm just going to town here, trying my best to base coat that club. That'd be a nasty club to get over the head, that's for sure. That's like the size of a medium character's torso. Okay, he's got a little bit of a branch that comes off the side here. What are your favorite minis, for those of you that paint minis? Favorite minis that you guys have painted so far from the WizKids D&D line? If you guys want to sound off, I'd love to hear your thoughts on some of the things that you've done so far, some of the things that you're on the table. Also, folks, this month is pretty much planned for February, but if you guys have minis from the Nolzur's line that you would like me to paint for March, let me know, because that schedule, except for GaryCon, is still open. We haven't finalized exactly what we'll be doing. So yeah, please let me know what you guys wanna see painted. what's on your table, what's coming up in your games that you'd like to tackle, all of that fun stuff. So. Yes, so Paulie just asked if I work for WizKids or am I just sponsored by them. So I am WizKids is a sponsor of our show. We're also partners with WizKids, so we do a lot of work with WizKids, including masterclasses at shows and design work, consultation, and a bunch of other stuff. We also do all of the videos for their in-store painting events, so that if you go to your store, and they've just released this and they're continuing to kind of do it across I think it's North America right now, or at least the United States for now. But they send minis and to stores, and then the stores have the paint, and then they watch our tutorials at the store and paint minis. We've done the Beholder and the Owlbear so far, and there's more to come. And so we do that. So we're closely tied to them. And you asked about the tile system. So we actually used their brand new Warlock tile system in episode 1 and 2 of Into the Mist. So if you want to see how it works, how it looks up close, how minis interact with them, they were showing it off at PAX Unplugged, but you'll be able to see that in episode 1 and 2. We got an advanced set from them to try out, and it's pretty awesome. We had a blast with that set. Okay, that is that. We're going to let that dry, and I'm going to start to dry brush this backpack here. We are going to use this Parasite Brown, which is kind of this lighter kind of pukey color, and that is going to be our dry brush for the backpack. And you can see already, just with kind of one pass, how nicely that is. And I'm obviously doing this before I paint the patches or the net, because I don't want to get those areas and overbrush onto them. I mean, even still, this is almost enough, folks. You can see how nice that contrast is already. But I will come back and maybe do that net. It looks so nice that I don't know if I want to, but risk kind of mucking it up a bit. But you don't take any chances. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, right? There we go. Okay, so that is that. And I think that would probably be the only amount of dry brushing and highlighting that I'll do here. And then I'm going to go in and kind of add some patches and do that net. I don't know how I'm going to do that net yet, though. So we're going to have to figure that out, because there's kind of things sticking through it and on it. I might try and overbrush, like I said, a little bit, just to kind of catch the top of it. For those patches, though, I am going to use Leather Brown again. That dry brush is pretty much already dry because it was a dry brush, so we don't have to worry too much about that. I am going to use kind of my wider dry brush with some Leather Brown for this patch here, which we will paint real quick. Add a base coat to it. And then we're going to use the Umber Wash to bring that texture back in. I am not worrying about the deepest recesses on this because they are kind of an earthy color. Kind of gives it a bit more personality. I'm not too worried about it. That's probably the level that I'll go to covering that. I'm also going to go over here a bit more, like I said, like an overbrush, because I'm not worried about having those darker colors in the recesses. Actually adds to it and helps it to blend a bit. Now for this net, I am going to come in here and do the little strings that hold it down. This little rope here and the edge. Now this is going to be subtle, but that's okay. I kind of like that it's subtle. And we're going to see if this is going to work. I may catch some of the texture on the bag that kind of pokes through the net, but kind of using the edge of my brush here to overbrush onto this net so it looks a little bit lighter. Trying not to catch the little areas that are poking through. but just using the edge or the side of my brush to pick out that net. And it's just going to be a touch lighter than the rest, but not super light. Because it all looks like it's kind of part of the same bag as well, so that's okay. As long as it kind of sticks out a little bit and it's pronounced, I'm kind of happy with it. I may come back and do a little bit with some bone white, but we'll see how I feel about it after. All right. Any more leather brown anywhere? I don't think so. Okay. Now, while that dries real quick, we are going to, I'm going to use my gunmetal at this point. For gunmetal, I'm going to grab my number 2 brush, and I'm just going to go in, perhaps my number 2, although these are pretty small. I might use my 0 brush. Yeah, I'll just use my 0 for this. Add a little bit of water, because the metallics tend to be quite thick. And then just going to go in and highlight all these rings and kind of the hardware, buckles, rings that are a part of this Hill Giants garb. There's a little buckle here, so we're just going to hit that side of it and that side of it. It's just a little hint of metal. It's all these finishing touches that really kind of make a miniature pop. I would typically use a wash on this, but they're so small that maybe it's not necessary. Have to see how it looks in the end. Again, make sure you hit the sides of these as well down here. I also have silver to highlight them if I wanted to, but I don't know if it's required. Do I have silver on here? No, I don't have silver. I lied. That was for the fire giant that I was supposed to do today. So that is all they're going to get. But I think that is probably all of the metal on this mini. Just all the little rings and stuff. So fun. Oh, missed a buckle. Missed a buckle. Here we go. There. Cool. All right. Really coming along here. Looks decent on camera. Cool. Now that stuff is dry, we're going to use an umber wash. And that is going to be on basically all of the leather brown areas. Check back into the chat here real quick. I missed some questions. I'd love to see you paint Strahd and the Vampire Hunters. I did that already. About 3 or 4 episodes ago. You can check them out on our YouTube, youtube.com/RealmSmith. Just looking for the question. So again, folks, if you have a question, just write question first, and then your question. The real question is, I don't know if I'm allowed to allow that on our. Yes, I am. On our channel, I am. Somebody asked what color are his nipples going to be. I'm going to say it because it's a part of our body, and so I don't know. I was going to go rosy flesh for those, so I think that's probably what I'm going to use. I'm going to use a umber wash here, folks, for all of the leather brown areas. That is going to be his leg wraps. And again, that is just going to bring some really cool depth into the miniature. Okay. All right. And I'm not being afraid, folks, to use, sometimes what you want to do is if you have a wash that you're putting on something, allow the wash to sit in the recesses. You can see on the feet there how it's added a line above above the foot on this one too. It kind of got lost before, but now it's adding delineation between the foot and the wrap. And that'll happen if you allow that wash to seep in between the two areas, the two sections, nicely. So I'm going to add maybe a little bit of wash to the... it didn't work so good. Adding wash to the patches, which will hide them a little bit, but that's okay, because we can always come back with a lighter color to bring them back up here. I'm hitting this with the umber wash as well to bring in those awesome folds back, like that. I'm also going to hit the patches on the back with an umber wash to bring the back to there too. Probably actually should have waited until I used my bone white on those, because I'm going to want to bring that down a bit too. Looking good. All right. Let's see, 6:47, 15 minutes or so. I am actually going to go back in with a black wash for those. Well, let's see if I'm going to see if umber wash will do it. No, it's not going to be dark enough, so I am going to bring a black wash in. You can mix washes if you do too. For the sake of time, I'm just going to use the black wash straight. And I'm going to be very careful here, folks, because now we're adding black wash to an area that we've already... I just messed that up already. A little bit of water. You can wipe that right off his chest. You can see I got some umber wash there, but I'm just using a brush with some water, kind of a brush with kind of a bit more kind of harder bristles, more firm bristles, and then I'm just wiping the paint right off. You can usually fix most issues that you have with that. And I'm just adding a wash to the straps here, being careful not to get it on the skin as much as I can. If I do get a little water, thanks for the follow, and just wiping it off the surrounding areas. But that's just going to add a bit more depth into those straps there. There we go. All right. Cool. Done and done. I don't even know if those are going to get I said I wasn't going to put a wash on this, but while I'm here, why not? Okay. Okay, real quick, we're going to paint this club. That's going to be heavy blue gray. It's another extra opaque paint. I'm going to start going turbo speed here. We lost half an hour today, so I'm trying to make up for that time. And yes, somebody talked about sports. Isn't the Super Bowl going on today? Is that happening? I'm in Canada. I don't follow sports, so I am impressed with how many people we have on, considering there's a major sporting event happening in the U.S. right now. So thank you all for being here. Okay, so heavy blue-gray. And we are just going to lather that on to all of the stone here. This club has seen some action, I'm sure. Not being super careful around the top, but I am trying to be a bit more careful around the bottom where it meets the wood. I've already kind of overstepped it a little bit. But we're just going to let that dry, and then we're going to give that a wash. I am going to go back now to the umber wash, hit the hair as we talked about before. You can see right away how that brings back that texture in the hair. If I'm actually on camera. And again, allowing the umber wash to seep between the skin and the hair will give it a cool kind of line of delineation there. So we're going to let that dry. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back with some bone white. And we're going to mix that with leather brown again. And we're going to make a lighter kind of dry brush color that we can use for some of those patches and things here. That's the color I want. Wipe most of it off, and then I'm just going to do this. very carefully over that patch there, and that will make that pop. I'm going to go around the edge of this, being careful as much as possible not to get the bag. Probably is going to happen, but this will lighten it up significantly and kind of separate it from the rest of the background. As it did right there. Perfect. Trying to get some of the area of the net. And this should lighten the net up significantly from the rest. A bit more in here. Like that. There we go. And then also hit the one back here as well. Just going to dry brush on there. It's not even totally dry in the recesses, but for the sake of time, we're going to go ahead. And then that sticks out as well. Thanks for the emote and the subscription. It's so great that we can have those now. It's awesome. Okay, so, oh, just another follow too, thank you. Okay, so that is that. I'm also now going to go in, and time is it? 7 minutes, folks. I am going to do, use my zero brush, get some bleach, some bone white, sorry, and paint the eyeball. I'm just going to add a little bit of there on that eye, maybe a bit much, but that's okay. A little bit on that eye, like that. Just let that dry there. And then I'm also going to go around and just hit all the stitching with bone white, as well as these kind of claws or whatever these are. And I may actually not even hit that with a wash after, because I kind of want that to be stark. Like that. Go back around, find whatever other stitching there is. There's some back here, using the edge of my brush just to catch the detail. There. I'm also just going to streak his hair a little bit just to give it a bit more depth, some highlights of bleach, sorry, bone white. I keep saying that. Wrong company, Jason. Like that. And then I'm also going to get the string around his... I'm running out of time. I'm not going to be able to finish this string in the next 6 minutes. But I think you folks get the idea. Basically what I'm doing here is I am going to base coat all of the rope that holds down this, this boulder on top. And then I'm going to give the boulder a wash with black wash. And then I'm going to give the rope a wash with umber wash. And I actually want this heavy blue gray to dry on that rock before I do that. So, but I think now for his unmentionables, I think I'm going to come back with some umber wash here and just add that there just to darken it a little bit. Like that, maybe a bit more. If they didn't want me to talk about it, they wouldn't have put it on the miniature, right? There we go. That works for that. A lot of people were asking about what I was going to do there, and that's all I'm going to do for that. I may have come in first with some rosy flesh and then after, but I think I'm done talking about it. And yeah, I'm going to take my zero brush again, and I am going to dot these eyes with some heavy sienna, because it's the darkest color I have right now. I'm just going to put a little dot in the center, like that, and in the center here. And then once it's done, folks, I will post what the final, and that is our hill giant. I will post what the final kind of miniature looks like after the fact, but I think given the time constraints and all that stuff, I'll walk you through the rest of the steps that I'm going to take. Like I said, I'll probably do a highlight on some of these patches with a little bit of bleach bone mixed with parasite brown. Bone white, I keep doing that. Bone white with parasite brown. I'm going to, once this is dry, give this whole club a wash with black wash. Then I'm going to base coat the rope with bone white, and then use umber wash on top of that to finish that off and give it some much needed detail. And then I'm coming back in here with some gunmetal because the black wash that I put on this whole thing has kind of muted it to the point where it's not even shiny anymore, because the washes actually go on matte. So, not matte like a person, I mean matte like the sheen. So, and not Martin like the sheen, but anyways, you get what I'm trying to say. So we'll go in here and just add a bit more gunmetal to highlight these. And I don't want you guys to miss anything, because D4 is up next in 3 minutes. All right, well, that is the hill giant in an hour and a half. If I had the full 2 hours, we absolutely would have gotten him done. He is a beast of a mini, but like I said, given some simple techniques, you can finish him in a short amount of time. Nipple and all. There it is. Thank you, folks, for watching. As you know, Into the Mist is tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. Pacific. Do not miss it. We left on a major cliffhanger last week, so you can catch the rest of it tomorrow night. We are so excited. It's been so fun. I have the whole dungeon set out here that I'm actually going to finish putting together tonight for all of the players tomorrow. To watch the VODs of these, you can head to youtube.com/RealmSmith or youtube.com/D&D. They're all there, and you can watch them on our channel. And there's so many others. We have 31 other episodes, so definitely check that out, including the Cloud Giant and the Frost Giant. Those are both on there, and the Frost Giant is actually a 3-part series. Very excited about that one. Love that one. It's Harshnag, so we spent a bit more time on it. Follow us on all the socials at /RealmSmithTV, and you guys have a wonderful night. Check out our adventure boxes at realmsmith.tv/ just that's it, realmsmith.tv, and use the promo code IWantAdventure to get $20 off your first box. Have a good one. You guys have a good night. Take care, and happy painting.